Okay, so the 20-minute rule or a guideline, it's not an absolute rule. Sometimes maybe you haven't refined your teaching methodology and you just cannot teach these group of concepts in 20 minutes. Well, maybe then it's okay to go 25 minutes, 26 minutes. If it takes you like 40 minutes to teach a concept, what I would say is really try to see if you can teach it simpler in less amount of time. Sometimes it helps to create text below the video, and that could save students a lot of time because you don't have to focus on syntaxes because they can just read it and reference it. But if you just cannot possibly teach all these concepts in 20 minutes, then you should really think about, am I trying to teach too much before I have them do assignments? And maybe you need to break it so that it could be more in a 20 minute-ish chunks of concepts followed immediately by assignments. This is just kind of a rule that I come up with. I find that if it is more than 20 minutes, I fall asleep. My brain turns off. I hate watching long videos where they're showing me how to do step A, B, and C. I hate it. So I don't want to force my students to go through that either. So, but I find that if you're teaching something very difficult, they can be very actively engaged for that 20 minutes. So use that 20 minute very wisely. It's very precious. You also don't want to have 20-minute session and then do small assignments 20-minute. That's not good either, right? Imagine they did 20 minutes of learning, 10 minutes of assignment, 20 minutes of learning, 10 minutes of assignment. They have to repeat that 100 times to master that technology. They're going to get tired, right? So usually for any technology, you want to cluster it so that typically for me it's 20-minute lessons followed by usually a few hours of assignments, half an hour to a few hours of assignment, and then repeat. And then once they reach the end of the course, then I give them a capstone project, something that would maybe take them 5, maybe even 10 hours to do, where they now have to bring all the pieces together. And I give, 1 or 2 capstone assignments that they need to work on. But that's the guideline that you should use. Now, there are exceptions. And the exceptions to a 20-minute rule is, imagine I taught something and they had to connect a lot of dots and I give them an assignment, and this is a pretty hard assignment. Well, I have them do it. They may have spent 5 hours, 10 hours, maybe even 15 hours, but they learned immensely because now their ability to connect the dots have really increased. Maybe in the beginning they could only connect 3 dots. Now they can connect 15 dots, 20 dots, but they spend hours. At that point, sometimes I like to come in and say, okay, now that you leveled up, let me show you how I would go about to build this assignment. So let me do a demo. I very rarely gave demo because I don't want students to rely on me. I don't want them to fall into the trap of a tutorial-based training. But sometimes for some key assignment, I do that. Let me do a demo. Sometimes I do a demo, and once I have mastered how to do a demo, sometimes I just add that directly in the platform and say, okay, now that you've done this, watch how I've done it in 30 minutes or 40 minutes. At that point, I think you can have a 40-minute video, 45, maybe it can even be 1 hour, because you're not teaching new concepts. You're basically reviewing concepts at that point, right? So when you're introducing new concepts that they haven't learned, you want to, because they have to be in the active learning mode, right? 20 minutes is good. But now they're going into a passive learning mode. They're still learning, but they don't have to have their brain fully engaged because, hey, yeah, I spent 15 hours building that assignment. So yeah, I see the flow. And whoa, you're doing it this way. This is interesting. And they can kind of see the flow. So, there are exceptions to any rules, of course, right? That's why I called it a 20-minute guide. But it's almost like 90% rule, and it's a little bit of guide. But anyway, remember that, but use that very rarely. For example, in PHP track or Ruby on Rails track or iOS track or Pick any language stack, programming language stack. How many demos like that do I give? Let's say in a course where students are spending 150 to 250 hours, usually no more than 2 is that type of a demo that I give. Because if you sometimes you may fall into the trap of giving too many demos. And sometimes if you have to give too many demos, that means your students aren't self-sufficient. Either your curriculum is bad, is that the assignment landscape doesn't look right, so students are not able to learn how to connect 3 dots, 5 dots, 20 dots. Maybe your course is like you taught them 20 concepts and they have to connect 20 concepts for the very first time when they never even connected 2 dots together. So maybe something is wrong with your course, or maybe your course is good, but you don't have enough confidence in the course and in the students, that you do too many demos, and now your students got addicted to a tutorial-based training where they want to see how you connect the dots. They worry so much about best practices. What's the best way to connect the dots? And there you will find numerous videos and articles about best practices. In my mind, don't worry about best practices when you're level 0. Just connect the dots. Connect more dots. Connect more dots. When you're level 10, let me then introduce these concepts to get you to level 11 and 12. And then let the students know, and we can do that in part of the course, that once you reach that mastery, then you can look down. Even when you look at your former assignments, you will know yourself how you could have done that better. You will know what the best practices are. And in fact, you can now create best practices because you've gotten better at connecting the dots. Okay, so again, after you listen to myself speak, go ahead and read the text, because I may have brought up some topics that I didn't cover yet in the video. So anyway, go ahead and read it, digest it, and then when you're ready, go ahead and proceed with the next section.